His love has no limits, His grace no measure, His power no boundaries. Invoking the divine blessings and benediction of that omnipresent Lord, Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, I offer myself at His divine reverential lotus feet. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to each and every one of you. I would like to thank Bhagwan and the leadership of Region 8 for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be engaging with all of you this evening. And I'm also grateful to Greg for those very kind words of introduction. We are all on this wonderful spiritual journey, Godward path, and our goal is to get closer to God and to reach God. As all of you are aware, Swami during the summer months makes a trip to Kodaikanal with a group of boys, his students. And in Kodaikanal, he usually addresses a lot of deep spiritual concepts and answers the questions of the boys and his students. So during one such session, a student asked Swami, Swami, how do we get close to God? How do we reach God? Swami said, the first step is to have an interest in God, followed by love and affection for God, and offering prayers to God. Swami started the men's college in Brindavan campus 1969. And at that point, there was no hostel building. A car garage was converted into a hostel, a makeshift hostel, and students that came out of state were housed in the car garage. And as the college grew, student population increased, and out-of-state student population also was on the rise. And Swami decided to construct a hostel building. It became a necessity at that point. So Swami acquired property. He got the architectural plans drawn, cleared the land, had Colonel Jogarao do all the markings, and also set a date for the groundbreaking ceremony, or the foundation stone ceremony as it is called. And of course, the word spread among the boys that a new hostel was coming up and Swami was planning for it. And very soon they will have to shift into the new building, which is outside the Brindavan ashram. So the boys were kind of thinking about it. Just one day before the groundbreaking ceremony, the foundation stone ceremony, Swami decides to spend some time with the hostel boys. So he goes into this car garage, the makeshift hostel, and talks to the boys and tells them about this grand plan of this big hostel building that is coming up. And then he kind of also prepares them that you will have to shift from this car garage to the new building, which is kind of outside the ashram. The students then present a letter to Swami. Then Swami opens the letter right there and then reads the contents. And the boys in that letter wrote, Swami, why are you upset with us? What are the disciplinary rules that we have violated that has upset you? Why are you banishing us? We want to be close to you. Swami sends for Colonel Jogarao, and then Jogarao comes to the hostel, and then Swami kind of talks to him, and he says, look what the boys are saying. They're saying the hostel is far off, and then they want to be close to the God. Then Colonel Jogarao says, no, Swami, it's not far off. It is just a few meters away from the ashram. Then Swami sends word for the college principal. It was Principal Narendra at that time. And Swami explains what the boys wrote in the letter to Principal Narendra. Narendra, of course, has a soft corner for the students, and Narendra says, Swami, these children have left their family behind and they have come here to stay close to you. So they should stay close to you. So after having this brief discussion and understanding the viewpoints, Swami decides to build the hostel within the Brindavan ashram. The yearning of the students, the interest in God, the love and affection for God, and their prayers were answered by none other than God itself, who overnight changed the plan. It is also believed that Swami went one step further, and there was a water tank in the area, and he kind of got the water tank covered with sand and concrete and made space for the new hostel building. So prayers are extremely important, and prayers is God's weakness and man's strength. I repeat, prayer is God's weakness and man's strength. I'm extremely grateful to my parents for having introduced me to Bhagawan when I was a young girl of about 8-9 years old. My family actually lived in a city called Kolkata, which is in the eastern part of the country. And then because of my dad's job, we had to relocate to Bangalore, which is in the southern part of the country. And my paternal aunt and my uncle stayed in Bangalore as well. And we were, of course, happy to relocate to Bangalore because we had family and then we could play with our cousins. So my aunt's family, they were ardent devotees of Shri Baba, and they lived in a town called Rajamundry on the banks of the river Godavari in the then state Andhra Pradesh. In those days, Swami used to travel to all these towns in Andhra Pradesh in the early 60s and mid 60s, and he happened to visit my aunt's family. They were an important family in the local small town. And then when Swami started conversing with them, Swami told them and convinced them that he was an incarnation of Shri Baba. And so that's how my aunt's family became devotees of Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. So when we relocated to Bangalore, my aunt started telling us lots of stories about Swami and all the miracles and then the teachings of Bhagawan. And my mom was drawn to Swami right away. Of course, my dad took a long time, but then finally she was able to convince him. And July 1969, my family decided to visit Brindavan Ashram and have Swami's darshan. My mom and myself on the ladies' side, I have a younger brother, my younger brother and my dad on the gent side, and Swami comes for darshan. And then he talks to my mom a little bit, and then he gives us Pada Namaskar, and then goes on to the gent side and then has a small conversation with my dad and then my brother. So that was the first taste of divine love my family experienced. We were all extremely happy. And from then on, Swami became a part of our family and our God. Swami's picture became the centerpiece of our altar. Birthdays, wedding anniversaries were always celebrated in the Brindavan ashram. And any major, minor decision a family had to take had to be approved by Bhagawan. And of course, we started going to two Sai centers. They're called as Sai Samitis in those days in India. And one was in Vairety and the other one was in Malleshwaram. The center in Malleshwaram had bhajans on a Thursday, and the center at Vairety had bhajans on Saturday. So it was convenient. We could go to both those centers. And we started involving in service activities. We used to kind of distribute fruits and crackers to a local general hospital. And if Swami were to be in Brindavan, Sundays, we would definitely go to Brindavan Ashram. Brindavan Ashram in those days was beautiful. It was huge, full of sand. There was a small shed, and there was the statue of Krishna there. And bhajans used to happen under the shed. And then rest of it was filled with sand. And we had these huge, beautiful trees. They were called as Gulmahar trees in India, the red flame trees. Lots of monkeys, lots of deers, and lots of area for us kids to kind of bounce and play around. So we did like our Sundays. Maybe not so for Swami's darshan, but definitely for the picnic and then the freedom we had there. And my mom, she lost no time in enrolling us into the Bal Vikas program. Bal Vikas, the blossoming of the child. So the sole aim of the program was to kind of inculcate spiritual discipline and also to fill the tender minds with sacred and then holy thoughts. And Bal Vikas also actually was in its initial stages of formation around that time. We had about 25 to 30 children in our Bal Vikas class. They were all in the age group of, say, 8 to 13, 14. It was that age range. And in our Bal Vikas class, we had bhajans, Gita chanting, and of course, sharing stories of sages, saints, and great kings. And the best part of the Bal Vikas program also was daily prayers. So there was a lot of emphasis, and we were taught prayers for every aspect of the daily routine. There was a morning prayer for as soon as you wake up. There was a prayer to Mother Earth as soon as you get out of the bed and set your foot on her. A prayer while you're taking a shower and a bath. A prayer to the goddess of learning and wisdom before going to school. Food prayer. Prayer when you turn on the lights in the evening at home, and a prayer while you're going to bed. So the everyday routines were used as a prompt to pray. And this inculcated the spiritual discipline of praying amongst all of us. We had to memorize these prayers. My mom was a strict disciplinarian, and she ensured that we learned these prayers and we said them every day. Swami would be invited to our annual day functions, and we would chant Gita in the presence of Swami, Bhagavad Gita. And our Bal Vikas teachers would also plan field trips to Brindavan and Swami's darshan. And Swami would come and talk to us. We had special seating in the Sai Ram shed or sometimes on the sand. And then Swami would come and talk to us, and then he would spend some time with us, and then he would ask us a few questions here and there, and he would also take black and white group pictures with us. Swami, in addition to these prayers, also laid a lot of emphasis on Gayatri chanting. Swami said, Gayatri is the essence of all Vedas, and it was revealed to sage Vishwamitra. Sage Vishwamitra was actually a king, and then he went on to become a Raja Rishi and then a Brahma Rishi. This is a very interesting story. He was ruling his wonderful kingdom. He was a great ruler. One day he decides to tour the kingdom with his soldiers and his ministers. Everybody is happy in the kingdom. And finally, he wants to pay respects to his guru, his teacher, Brahma Rishi Vasishtha. So he ends up at the ashram of Guru Vasishtha. And then he makes small conversation with Vasishtha. And Sage Vasishtha is extremely happy to see his disciple. And Sage Vasishtha offers to feed the king and his entire team of soldiers and the army. Then Vishwamitra is thinking to himself, this is an ashram of a sage, and where will he have the groceries and the ingredients to feed my whole team, which is so huge? So he politely declines the offer. However, Sage Vasishtha, he insists. And so Vishwamitra takes on the offer. Then Sage Vasishtha had with him the wish-fulfilling cow, Kamadhenu, or Nandini, as you can call. And it's a divine cow, a celestial being. And so he goes and whispers something into its ears. And then right away, Kamadhenu materializes food for the king, his ministers, and the soldiers. And they all feed, and then they're very happy. Then greed creeps into Vishwamitra. He requests Sage Vasishtha to part with the cow. He says, the cow will be more helpful to me, and so can you part with the cow? And sage Vashishta at this point refuses, and he says, this is a divine cow. It needs to stay in the ashram, and it needs the spiritual environment and the ambience. It cannot stay in a palace. But King Vishwamitra insists, and when Vashishta doesn't concede to this, he asks his army and soldiers to capture the wish-fulfilling cow. At this point, Vashishta moves his Brahmadanda, the sacred wooden staff, in front of the army and destroys the army of King Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra is shocked. One movement of the Brahmadanda and the power of the sage has destroyed his army. He is shocked at this. And so at that point, he decides and he says, Dhik balam, kshatriya balam, brahma balam eva balam. What that means is the power and the strength of a warrior is nothing. It's useless when compared to the power of the Brahman, the power of this Brahma Rishi, who is an enlightened sage. So he decides that he wants to renounce his kingdom. He passes it on and then gets into penance and austerities and then becomes a Raja Rishi. The story then takes many twists and turns, and then he becomes a Brahma Rishi. And the Gayatri Mantra is revealed to this sage Vishwamitra when he becomes the Brahma Rishi. And as the name indicates, Vishwamitra means the friend of the world. And that's how he shares the Gayatri Mantra with the entire world. And Swami used to conduct sacred thread ceremony, or Upanayinam as it is called. And he started this in the early 60s. And he used to conduct this Upanayinam to groups of young boys, where the male child would be initiated into the Gayatri Mantra. So Swami planned to conduct one such at the Brindavan ashram in the mid-70s. And so my parents thought this is a good opportunity for my brother. And so we thought he was a good candidate. And so we asked Swami for permission, and Swami approved it. And so we as a family were very excited that my brother would be initiated into the Gayatri Mantra by none other than Bhagawan himself. So there was an orientation for all the families that had enrolled into this program. And so we went to Whitefield, Brindavan Ashram, and then they kind of walked us through the program. And each family had a spot where they had to sit. We had a wonderful spot just next to the stage in front, right in the front. And they also told us what all we had to purchase. And they said that Swami would be providing the Yagnopavitam, or the sacred thread, and Swami would also feed us lunch after the ceremony. So we were all very excited. And we came home, and then we thought about the whole program and what should be our next course of action. We shopped, we got all the ingredients, all the materials that were required for the ceremony. And Swami was anyhow going to bless my brother with the Yagnopavitam, or the sacred thread. And so my family thought that I should have some role to play. And my family decided that I should garland Swami when he comes to our family. So I wanted a sandalwood garland for Bhagwan. Karnataka, the state of Karnataka is famous for sandalwood trees, and sandalwood shavings were converted into beautiful garlands by the craftsmen. And of course, they were very good looking, beautiful to look at, and also wonderful fragrance because it was sandalwood. So that was the garland I wanted for Swami, because I wanted to pick what I wanted. But then, unfortunately, for some reason, we could not get a sandalwood garland. So we just ended up buying a flower garland from the flower lady just outside the ashram gate. And then we went in, and then we occupied our spot. Shri Kamavadhanu was the priest who was kind of walking us through the program and the ceremony. And Swami was there. It was a wonderful ceremony, so well organized. And then Swami also gave a discourse. And after that, after everything was over, Swami started walking towards each family. And so when it was our turn, he came to my family, and then he looked at me because I had the garland and I was ready. And then I kind of garlanded Swami with my flower garland. And then Swami accepted the flower garland And then some other family had given him a sandalwood garland. So Swami took off the sandalwood garland and then gifted it to me. I was extremely happy because I got what I wanted, a sandalwood garland. And then Swami told me in Telugu, "తీసుకో పోయి ఇంటిలో నా ఫోటోకి వేసుకో." My mother tongue is Telugu too. So what that meant was, take this garland, go home and put it on my picture. He blessed my brother, and then it was a wonderful day for the entire family. My brother got his blessings. We got this wonderful gift. We came home extremely happy, full of contentment, a lot of divine love. And he made sure that my mother also heard this instruction. So my mother put this garland on a beautiful picture that was next to my bed. And reflecting on this, my initial thoughts were, okay, so if you give something small to Bhagawan, you will get something very big. I gave a small flower garland and I got a wonderful sandalwood garland from him. And I also understood at that point that God will give you what you want. So that was a big connection I made in this divine experience. But then later on, looking at the picture and the garland day in and day out, there were so many times when I would relive this experience. And every time I recollect this, it takes me to greater depths because of the impact the visual memory had looking at the picture and the garland every single time. And Swami, that is how he kind of really works on us. And I was so happy and felt so blessed for this wonderful opportunity I had when I was little. And all my Bal Vikas friends were also there. And then they kind of wanted to come home and look at the garland. And it was definitely a very wonderful divine experience. And this also helped me to develop a connection with Bhagawan, a trust in God, an interest and love for God. And what I have also realized is whenever Bhagawan gives us these divine experiences, there are lots of lessons embedded in them. And then I can kind of boil them down to 3 lessons. The first one is he lets us know that he is aware of the past, present, and future in all the 3 realms of our existence, body, mind, and soul. And the second one is he lets us know that he has the supreme power to modify and change the pattern of our life through his will. And the third one is he lets us know that he is present there for us, even though we are not thinking of him. While still staying on this topic, there is also this beautiful story behind the conceptualization of the Gayatri Mata temple in Prashanthinilayam. Subramanya Chettiar was an ardent devotee of Bhagwan, and he hailed from the town of Madurai. And his family would organize the Paduka festival in Prashanthinilayam sometime towards the end of September and then the beginning of October. And along with the Paduka festival, they would also install statues of different gods and goddesses. So kind of this was a routine for that family. And in 1998, the Chettiar family visits Puttaparthi in the month of January. And unfortunately, Subramanya Chettiar, he becomes sick. He fell ill. And so he had to be admitted to the hospital. And his son, Srinivas Chettiar, kind of stayed back and then started taking care of his father. And Swami started having conversations with Srinivas. And Swami started asking him, so what statue are you going to be installing this year? So Srinivas suggests probably Swami Dattatreya or Shiva Shakti. Then Swami says no. And in the hospital, Subramanya Chettiar has this wonderful darshan of Mother Gayatri. He sends for his son and then asks Srinivas to convey the message to Bhagawan and take permission from him to install the statue of Mother Gayatri. So Srinivas comes back and then talks to Swami, and the Swami is extremely happy, and then he agrees to install to this request to install the statue of Mother Gayatri. So Srinivas discusses further details with Swami. Swami kind of advises and guides him and says the statue has to be 5 to 5.5 feet, 5 faces, and 10 hands, and white stone. So with this information, Srinivas proceeds to New Delhi and then for selecting a marble, a stone for the statue. And then he transports that to Jaipur, the western part of the country, because the sculptor is there who made the previous statues. So Srinivas transports the stone to this sculptor, and the sculptor begins to work on the stone. And what happens is, as he's working midway, the sculptor discovers that there is a hole in the heart area of the statue. And so he's not very happy with it, and at the same time wanted to be truthful and upfront about this defective stone. So he calls Srinivas and informs him of this current situation. And then Srinivas rushes to New Delhi again, picks up another stone, and then transports it to the sculptor. And now the sculptor begins to work on this stone, and now he's running short of time because he lost a lot of time working on the first one, on the defective stone, and now he's working on a second one. And so within 45 days, he's, however, able to finish this. And then Swami invites the sculptor also to Prashanthi Nilayam for the installation. And then the statue was installed on October 9th, 1998. Swami profusely blesses Srinivas, of course, and also the sculptor because of the truthfulness and the honesty. Prashanthi Nilayam, as all of you are aware, has lots of statues of gods and goddesses all around, and kind of always giving us visual prompt for prayer. The best way, of course, is to immerse ourselves in prayer always and unceasingly. However, that is a very difficult task, and I'll speak for myself. I'm still a work in progress, and I'm not there. And other times when we pray are when we are in wonder and we have gratitude, and when we have been blessed with some blessings and prosperity. So that's when we offer our prayers. Prayers of wonder, prayers of gratitude. Other times when we offer prayers are when we are in distress and affliction. Prayers of wonder and gratitude, it's easy. A baby is born, or lush green fields, beautiful ocean. We offer our prayers. On the other hand, at the other end of the spectrum, we also offer prayers when we are in distress and affliction, when nobody is there to rescue us and we feel very helpless, or we cannot help ourselves too at some points. So that is when we offer these prayers. For example, when we are in a car that is acting up on a highway in the middle of a downpour. So there was this student of Bhagawan. He completed his MCom and MBA at Shri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, and then started to work in the ashram. And Swami used to talk to him on a daily basis, and all the other boys would look up to him. After some time, there was some issue, and this student moved out of the ashram and sought employment in the city. And then he gets an employment, and he's extremely happy, doing very well, makes a lot of progress. But then he wants to now relocate to the United States, and then he's successful. He comes to the United States and then seeks employment in an electrical company. And this company makes electrical gadgets on an assembly line at the rate of 100 per minute, extremely efficient system. But however, there was a bottleneck in this project where the labeling had to be done manually. So that was kind of slowing down the production and sales and everything. So this project was kind of hanging in there, not making any headway. So this student of Bhagwan meets with the director and writes a project proposal to automate this project. So he says that I will take up this responsibility of writing a software program that would automate the labeling aspect of these electrical gadgets. So the director of the company is extremely happy with this child. And so he gives him leave of absence. And then he accomplishes writing the software program and he tests it a number of times. And every single time it was a success. Now he's very confident and turns over the product to production and manufacturing. And when they begin the implementation, it fails. So he immediately gets a call from the director and he is shocked. He says, no, it will work. I'm confident. I've tried it. And every time I tried, it was a success. But however, it failed at the final stage of this implementation. So now he requests for 15 minutes of private time from his director and boss, and then comes into his room, sinks into his chair, and then prays to Bhagawan. He tells Bhagawan, I'm a zero. Whatever I am today is because of your grace and what you made out of me. So Swami, I need your help. I'm in despair. I'm helpless. So a voice calls out his name, just like how Swami would do when he was in Prashanthi Nilayam. And he looks around, there's no Swami, but the voice persists. And then for the next 10 minutes, Swami is guiding him through the software program, giving him instructions. Go to line number 129, change this parameter, do that, do this. And finally, Swami asks him to click enter. And as he does that, within 2 minutes, he gets a call saying that the project was successful and then the production is on. Swami answered his prayer when he was in distress. Dr. Kulkarni was a physician in the Bijapur district in Karnataka. This is a story from the 1961. And in his clinic, there was a lady that came who was suffering from pneumonia. And so he takes care of her. And on the fourth day, Dr. Kulkarni feels that she's stable. And then he goes home at 8 o'clock. But then in the midnight, her son calls for Dr. Kulkarni. So he rushes to the clinic, and there he finds that her heart is sinking. So he administers some drugs, then she's under observation, but then nothing seems to be working. And Dr. Kulkarni is at a loss, then comes home at 1 a.m. in the morning, and then takes a shower and sits in front of Bhagawan's picture. And then he says, my efforts have all been in vain. I know no other course except to surrender to you. On you now is the responsibility of making her come out alive. So with this prayer, he goes to sleep and he gets up even before sunrise, rushes back to the clinic. And to his surprise, he finds this lady, her name is Baduma. She's sitting on her bed. So he goes to her and asks her, how did this happen? Did somebody visit you in the night? And so she says, yes, there was a person who came who had bushy hair, large pile of hair on his head. He sat next to my pillow, stroked my face, and helped me get up and sit up. And then Dr. Kulkarni shows her the picture of Bhagawan, and then she confirms that it was Swami. How lucky is this woman whose life got a new lease with his divine touch. Swami again answered the prayers when in distress. Another beautiful story is a student of Swami, Ravi Mariwala, working in the super specialty hospital in the cardiology department. And so there was a patient who was operated for a congenital defect and was unable to recover from the heart function. And so she's not able to get off the heart-lung machine because the blood pressure was not stabilizing. So they try everything in the theater. Nothing seemed to be working. They administer some drugs that also failed. Then at that point, the student of Bhagawan is thinking everything has been tried except prayer. He is relieved by a colleague of his, so he steps out into the corridor and then closes his eyes and for a minute visualizes Swami's face and then says a silent prayer to Swami for a patient whom he does not know. And he also gets a doubt, Swami, this is a prayer for a patient I do not know. I don't know whether it will work. But he still ends up praying to Bhagawan. And then 5 minutes later, he comes into the theater, and the mood of the theater had already changed. Blood pressure picked up, and then the patient made a smooth transition and then recovered fully well. And the following Sunday, Ravi goes for Swami's darshan, and then Swami comes to Ravi, creates vibhuti, and Swami tells him, this is for the prayer that you said for that patient. Then Swami later on describes this incident to all those that were nearby. And so that is the miracle of prayer. That's how prayer works. Sometimes what happens, we are in a situation that is between these two ends of the spectrum. It is not a situation of gratitude and wonder, nor is it a situation of distress and affliction. What should we do in such a situation? We begin to partner with God. We enter into a partnership with God. We pray to Swami and we tell him, Swami, I will do my best and you do the rest. So the partnership may be 50-50, 60-40, 80-20. It just depends on the situation and, of course, the relationship with Bhagawan. And this partnership is best explained from a story from the Bhagavatam, Gajendra Moksham. There was this king of the elephant, and his name was Gajendra. Elephant, as it is a mighty animal, strong and powerful. And he was also the king, so stronger than the rest of the elephants. Mighty, lot of strength, lot of influence, lot of pride, lot of ego. So on a sunny day, he decides to get a drink of water from a nearby lake. And so goes there with family and friends. He gets his drink of water, and then, unfortunately, his leg is held by a crocodile. So the crocodile grips his leg. And then he thinks, oh, I can shake it off. This is not an issue. I'm mighty. I'm powerful. I'm the king. But then it doesn't work. His friends try to help him. They're all elephants. They're all equally powerful. Doesn't work. His family tries to rescue him. No luck. Then he realizes that the crocodile is stronger than the strength of all the family and the friends put together. And then he thinks, oh, so I'll have to fight this battle alone. So he is there fighting the battle. At this point, what he does, he gathers his all and then tries to fight the crocodile. But then crocodile grows even stronger. He is also powerless. So at this point, his thoughts turn to God. Then he calls out and prays to Lord Vishnu. His energy is depleting, and then he's trumpeting in pain. His voice is hoarse. And now the last drop of the energy is sapped, and he is completely drained, and the veil of ego and pride is shed. At that point, the prayer reaches Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, Narayana, he's in Vaikuntha playing chess with his consort Lakshmi. And Bhagavatam beautifully describes as Narayana listens to this prayer, he leaves everything, he drops everything, and then he rushes to the devotee. He forgets his upper cloth, he forgets the weapons, he forgets to call for his vehicle Garuda, and he rushes to Gajendra and kills the crocodile and rescues the devotee. What actually happened here? What happened in this partnership? What happens when we partner with God? We grow when we partner with God spiritually. So when Gajendra saw that friends are not able to help, family is not able to help, so he begins to admit that weakness. And he himself is not able to help himself. So we begin to admit that we lack something. God, we want to partner with you because we lack something. So humility sets in. The second thing is we also recalibrate ourselves. We get a reality picture of where we stand. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And wisdom dawns. I cannot do this. So he gives up. Gajendra gives up. He gathers his all, but still he's not able to fight the crocodile. The third thing also is our prayer, and when we enter into this partnership, actually defines who we are. I'll tell you two small stories. The first one is Swami Vivekananda's family was reduced to poverty when his father died. And so he approaches his guru, Ramakrishna, and then explains the situation to him. And then Ramakrishna advises him to go and talk to Mother Goddess. So he goes into the temple and then has a conversation with Mother Goddess. But then when he has the conversation, he asks her for bhakti, gnana, and vairagya, for devotion, knowledge, and then detachment. He forgets that he has to ask her for material possession. Bhakti, gnana, and vairagya defined who Vivekananda was. On the other end, there was a student of Bhagawan who was weak in math. And so he was really nervous on the day of the math exam. And however, he writes the exam, and then his teacher is waiting outside the examination hall just to understand how this child performed, because the teacher was also nervous. And then after gathering some information from this student, the teacher concludes that, okay, if the examiner is in a good mood, because in India, evaluation was done by hand. So if he's in a good mood, he will pass this child and he will get 35%, which is required, which was the pass mark in those days. And so then this student was a part of the Bhaja Govindam drama. And then Swami was planning to take this whole group to Bombay for the summer. And then they had to kind of enact this drama there in Bombay. And the group performed extremely well, and so did this boy. His performance was superb. And then Swami is extremely happy with this. And then Swami grants him an interview. And this was a student who had a long list of questions, spiritual questions, that he wanted to ask Swami if he were to be called for an interview by Bhagawan. So Swami calls him for an interview, and then he asks, Emi kaval rachappu, what do you want? Tell me, boy. This child says, Swami, please bless me so that I can pass in my math exam. Swami says, no, ask for something else, that will happen. But then no other thoughts come to his mind. No other spiritual question comes to his mind. So our prayer defines who we are. What happens if prayers don't work? Do we still grow? Yes, we definitely grow even when prayers don't work. How does that happen? Usually, whenever we pray in partnership, we are like, Swami, I like this, I don't like this. I want this, I don't want this. I desire this, I don't desire this. So there is still a lot of ignorance. But however, that becomes the stepping stone for the next stage, where we come to that conclusion, Swami, please give me what you think is right for me. Or we will come to the conclusion, Swami, you will always give me what is best for me. So we have to reach that stage. And to reach that stage, it is important that we go through this whole process. So whatever you give me is best for me. So this is about Professor Kasturi. As all of you are aware, Professor Kasturi was a wonderful and an ardent devotee of Bhagawan. And he had a very unique relationship with Swami. He was always very happy. He was extremely a delight to talk to, and he was a wonderful orator and very joyful till the very end of his life. Even during the last stages, he had lots of health issues, and he would come to Swami's darshan on a wheelchair. And Swami would joke with me. Swami would joke with him, and Swami would say, Kasturi, you have become a chairman without selection or election, because he was wheelchair bound. So that's how Swami would joke with him. And he was always a very happy, joyful personality. Now, let us take a small sneak peek into his personal life. Professor Kasturi's older son died in his prime youth. He had a second son who died a little later. And he had daughter Padma Kasturi, whose marriage was not working out. She had a lot of issues in her marriage. And his own wife was in bed, paralyzed for 11 long years. And one day, Professor Kasturi talked to a group of Westerners about Swami and his teachings, and then he returns home, and Padma Kasturi is upset. And then she asks her father, you have just now talked about the greatness of Bhagwan and the teachings of Bhagawan. What did you get from him? What did you get out of this? What did Swami give you? To this, Professor Kasturi replies, Swami is God. He is perfect. And what he does to me is perfect. What a wonderful way of looking at prayers. And so I would like to conclude on this note. Swami is God. He is perfect. And what he does to all of us is perfect. Jai Sai Ram.